Fallout 4 has finally been released, and I have been working so hard putting together some Fallout 4 custom consoles, controllers, even the Kinect. Been working on this for you guys to show you how you can do something like this yourself, and that is what this video is all about. This project took me about 30 hours to complete, so that's the controller, the console, and the Kinect. Total time about 30 hours, actual hands-on working time. That's not just like spray painting and waiting for paint to dry. I spent a lot of time putting this thing together, from the custom grill to replace the old grill, putting together all kinds of different little details that I was going to work into this project. You don't have to do a console exactly like this one, but you can use the techniques that I'm showing you in here. You can use all kinds of techniques from all of my do-it-yourself tutorials in order to put together your own custom console. Welcome to my tutorial. Feel free to navigate the tutorial at any point in time during the video. You can choose to move to the next step, the last step, 5 steps away, 3 steps away. You can do whatever you want. It's all at your leisure. You can access the menu by pushing on my logo in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. Follow the steps in order, and you will be able to create your very own special custom console. I was able to pick up all of these items at the Home Depot, every last one of them except for the security screwdrivers, but those items that you're going to need to get are whatever paint you prefer. I like to use Rust-Oleum. You can get it pretty much anywhere, so you don't have to go to a special store to pick up a paint. If you happen to be next to a Walmart, but you originally bought your paint at Home Depot, it doesn't matter. Like, they've got it there. They're going to carry it, so that's awesome. You're going to need to get yourself a T8 Torx security screwdriver, a T10 Torx security screwdriver, and you know what? Why don't you just go ahead and buy a set of security screwdrivers? That would be the best thing to do. They're cheap. I mean, you could probably pick one up for about 15 bucks. You might have to go to Radio Shack or iFixit. They have exactly what you need there. That one's a little expensive, but you can find knockoff ones of that on eBay for like 18 bucks. So they are out there. Pick that up. You're going to need to get yourself some hot glue, glue sticks. You're going to need black and white electrical wire. You're going to need solder, a soldering gun. You're going to need to pick up some transfer paper, white transfer paper. Make sure that it is white. You'll need to get some plexiglass. I used 1/16 of an inch, but you could use 1/8 of an inch if you'd like. I don't suggest going any thicker than that. I also picked up some metal lath while I was at the Home Depot, and I used acorn nuts. I used screws and bolts to apply that lath to the faceplate and to the grill. To disassemble this guy, we're going to use a flathead screwdriver, just a simple flathead screwdriver. You fit it into the top here, kind of close to the edge, and lightly pry upwards. It will pop up, and then you can just pull it right off. Very super easy to get this thing open. Upon opening that, you're going to find underneath of your sync button, there is a little black tab. You're going to push from the back side of it down and out. This can be kind of tricky at first. Grab a hold of the case just like I am here and twist it using your thumb, and you'll hear a pop. You can then flip the case over and continue opening through the back, unpopping the tabs that are holding this plastic together. This case is actually extremely easy to get off, a lot easier to pull apart than the PlayStation 4 was. So if I had another opportunity to work on an Xbox One, I would take it over a PlayStation 4. I'm not gonna lie. PlayStation 4 owners, if you happen to be watching this, oh my, I don't wish that on my worst enemy, really. I don't. Once you've popped those things open, you're going to go ahead and set it back down on its bottom, and then lightly pull it forward and basically pull the top off. Your faceplate is still going to be attached, and it is also attached with a ribbon cable to a ring of light type of motherboard PCB board on the front of the console. So be very careful, don't be ripping it off. You're just basically opening this up. Once you do that, go ahead and flip it back over. You'll grab a hold of the hoop part of the ribbon cable, pull it up, and pull out the ribbon cable. Very easy. Once you've got all this pulled apart, you can go ahead and start unscrewing all of the screws that you see. All of them, you can go ahead and do all of them. I chose to do the X clamps a little later in the project, but you can go ahead and get all of your screws out of the way right now. I started by removing the Wi-Fi card by unscrewing it first and then pulling off the little wire that is your antenna, basically, if that's how that works, your Wi-Fi antenna. And then I ended up using again the flathead screwdriver to kind of work it out of the slot that it sticks into. Remove the screws from the ring of light PCB, and once you've made sure that you've got all those screws taken off, you can go ahead and remove the top part of this chassis that holds your Xbox together. Inside, you will notice cables connecting your hard drive to the motherboard and your Blu-ray drive to the motherboard. You can go ahead and remove those and pull out your Blu-ray drive, pull out your HDD, and then you can remove your fan. To remove the fan, I used the flathead screwdriver and basically kind of slowly worked it off of the heatsink. While the fan in this is a great design, I like how it clips on to the heatsink. It is definitely not meant to be removed very easily. So work at it. Be careful not to damage anything, or if you plan on using the fan again later, just be easy about it. It will come off eventually. Once you have everything removed, you can then pull the motherboard from the chassis. If you feel it kind of sticking in the area where the power goes in, there's a black tab underneath of the motherboard here that's fitting into the chassis, and that can cause some restriction when you're trying to pull out the motherboard. Now you'll notice that my grill is already removed. I wasn't really too worried about destroying the grill because I had in mind replacing the grill with the metal lath. So the way I went about it, I don't recommend doing it. What you would want to do in order to remove your grill, if you want to paint it a different color, or if you want to flip it around or whatever, for some reason people want to do that. On the back side of the case, you're going to notice these little pill-shaped or oval-shaped tabs, and you'll go ahead and sand those off with your Dremel. Once you get them all sanded down, be careful not to go all the way through. You just want to flatten them off. Once you get them all flattened off, you take your flathead screwdriver and just push it out. It'll come right out. Then you can take it off to the side. You can paint it. You can do whatever you want to with it.
letters you wrote. When you said you were sorry you left, but that you still loved us both. Well, it's all just words, it's just you moving a pen. I don't care if you're sick, don't ever call here again. We're stronger now, we survived without you in our lives. You left us behind, but our family survived.
Now it is time to go ahead and put our logo down. I've promised my subscribers that I was going to show them how awesome transfer paper was, and this is a great project to do that with. You'll use your white transfer paper. You'll set it down on top of your project first. Then you will take whatever design it is that you want, any logo, any font. Font is a little tricky, and I highly recommend that whatever you are using is of really decent size, because tiny little pieces, tiny little slits and sharp angles and things like that can be very difficult, and can be that might be when things start getting screwed up in your project and start making you not want to do it anymore. So I highly recommend that if you plan on doing something that's really tight and really detailed, that you make sure that you have a variety of sizes of cutting tools that you can use in your Dremel. Dremel can do basically anything you want it to do. You just need to make sure that you have those tools available. So look for those things. What can you use to cut plastic with? There is an all-purpose cutting tool that I like to use. It comes with a plastic bit, but it's wide. It's a specific width, and I ended up using things that were meant for like engraving and stuff like that. So once this is down, you're going to secure it with whatever tape you can. I used blue painter's tape because it peels off really easy. Then you will take a pencil and you will basically just draw out the stencil. Whatever printed picture you've used, that's your reference. You just go around the outer edges of it. It's phenomenal. It goes right through, straight down onto your project. Look at it, right? It's there. How awesome. Couldn't be any more easier. So I highly suggest using this method. It is fantastic. It's a sure way to get a near perfect logo onto your project, no matter what it is. Now that we've got our logo down, we're going to go ahead and flip over our case again, and we're going to remove all of these grooves that are inside of here. If we do not, it can interfere with your cutting. It can cause your bit to catch and put a notch somewhere you don't want it, or cut something off you didn't want, and then you're pissed off, and I don't blame you. So in order to avoid all of that, let's go ahead and remove all of the grooves that are on the underside of the top of the case. Now that we've got that all removed, again, we're going to flip this guy over. We're going to secure it down, make sure that it can lay flat. One side of the top case of this Xbox is not even. So you're going to need to prop something underneath of that to keep it flat. So that way when you go to cut this, you're not fighting an angle, you're not fighting anything. Everything is nice and level. And it's a great experience, and we're about to have fun, and we're going to do this, and we're going to own it. We're going to own this. You and me right now. We're going to do this. We are, aren't we? Believe in yourself, homie. I believe in you. I have seen some amazing projects that people have sent me. The guy sent me a Deadpool PlayStation 4 or a picture of it, rather. He didn't send it to me, but he sent me a picture of a Deadpool PlayStation 4 setup that he did, but using my tutorials. Freaking awesome. Another subscriber just submitted his Vault 111 controller that he worked on. So good. So good. There are so many great projects coming to me. I highly suggest you check them out. They're on my website, drumblanket.com, in the subscriber submitted photo section of that website. It's marvelous. I love that you guys are sharing these projects with me, and I highly encourage you, all of you, no matter how junky you might think it turned out, don't beat yourself up. Send me a picture. I could at least offer you some advice on what to do better next time or something. When cutting, it is important to keep your Dremel on a low speed. I used about between 2 and 3, and at the very most 3.5, and that seemed like it was a little bit too fast. So imagine, I know you're watching this in a time speed lapse, but imagine that I'm going 5 times slower than this. It's important to do it that way. You know, the slower you take it, the less mistakes you're going to make, and the less work you're going to have to do afterwards to kind of fix those mistakes. So luckily I was able to get through all of this using files and the Dremel. After I had everything cut out, I went ahead and went over all of those edges with the file, trying to get everything as smooth as I possibly could. By hand, you know, there are always going to be some minor imperfections. We're not machines. So it's really hard for you to get something perfect. If you have a machine because I've seen some people out there who actually have machines that will cut their cases for them, which is extremely extravagant. Obviously, they're using those machines for a lot more than just their Xbox Ones or their PlayStation 4s. But if you have that available, then that's awesome. But most of us don't. So don't beat yourself up if you happen to make little bitty mistakes. It happens. A lot of times after the project is completely finished, the overall project can look so good that people don't even really notice that your font might be a little bit wrong, or you know, that you didn't get this quite right. It's not really that important. But again, that's why I suggest making your whatever theme, your logo or whatever, as big as you can possibly make it without going off too far to where you can't cover the bottom of it with plexi. So take a lot of time deciding what it is that you're going to do, and before you cut, I mean, you only get one chance when you cut. So prepare. If you need a little assistance removing the feet from the bottom of the case, I used an X-Acto knife to kind of remove that. X-Acto knives are a great tool to have. If you don't have one, what's the matter with you? Get one in your arsenal of tools right now. You ain't a man unless you got yourself an X-Acto knife, okay? X-Acto knife, duct tape. That's all you ever fucking need. Now that we've got that all cut and out of the way, we're going to continue with sanding the rest of our Xbox One. If you don't want to sand, well, that's just too bad. No, I have an answer for you. You can use Plastidip Blaze spray. It's not paint, but it's like paint. It comes out like paint. It smells like paint. It's not paint, though. It's rubber. It's some sort of plastic type of aerosol that comes out. It is meant to be removable, but you can permanently apply it if you use an actual clear coat afterwards. So keep that in mind if that's something that you want to do. I do not recommend, though, using that Plastidip aerosol spray if you're going to be using like a weather technique like this is. Mostly because if you do start to sand on it, it's going to start to roll off, and then it'll eventually just peel off. It's not going to sand away. It's not going to look rusted or relict like it will if you use paint. Make sure after that we have sanded everything that we go off and we wash off all of the extra plastic. We do not want to paint over a dirty case because you'll start seeing a bunch of rough bumps and like little specks of stuff that you don't want there. Get it in the sink, get some Dawn dish soap on that, scrub it down, let it dry for a while. Make sure it dries completely before we paint it because we do not want the paint to oxidize. Very important. Patience is the key here. I know you want to get this thing done. I want to get this thing done too. Believe me, I want nothing more than to get this project finished. And for you to enjoy your games on your own console that everyone's going to look at and be like, dude, where did you get this? Where did this come from? And you're going to say, I made it. I made it. It was me. Aren't you so jelly? And they're going to be like, I'm totally jelly. That's what's going to happen. Now that everything is prepared for painting, we're going to go ahead and hit it with some primer. I used an all-purpose bonding primer. This is great. This is by Rust-Oleum. It dries extremely fast, almost instantly. You only have to hit it a couple of times, like lightly dusting it, because if you hit it a lot, it's going to take a lot longer to dry. But you just basically dust it on there. It's meant to promote adhesion, and I would say it dries in about 8 minutes or so. You can then immediately start painting on it. I used a series of paints to do this project. I hit the entire project with flat brown first, 2 coats of that, and I wanted to do that just because I knew that I was going to be sanding through the top coat, and it's good to have an extra coat underneath, just in case you happen to go a little bit too far, because you don't want to be sanding all the way through to the plastic. Be super careful whenever you're sanding around edges or bottoms and things of that nature, curves and whatnot, because it is more susceptible to sanding straight through to the black plastic, and we don't want to do that. Using an extra brown coat or whatever coat that you might be using underneath of yours if you're doing a relic is always a great idea. So I highly recommend that you use 2 coats. Then your final coat being maybe a little bit heavier when you apply it. Obviously you don't want it to be dripping all over the place, and I used a hammered textured paint for this project because I wanted it to look metal. I wanted this to look like an old piece of rusted metal, something forgotten, something that's been sitting in a raider camp for the past 200 years or whatever, you know. Looks like an old piece of junk, but totally is not an old piece of junk. And that's hilarious to me. It's like, hey, I have an idea. I want to take this awesome black sleek looking Xbox One and make it look like an old piece of junk. That's what I'm going to do. Hey, you know, though, it looks really, really cool, right? I mean, I did what I wanted to do, and it's all spray paint and props. So I think it's convincing just by using what I ended up using. Spray painting is one of the most, it's so stress relieving. It's meant to be. It's really meant to be. If you're painting something and you're pissed off, you're probably doing it wrong. You just got to be chill. It all comes down to being patient. So again, I mentioned patience in this video a lot, specifically because this particular project was such a long, drawn-out thing. I had to really think about each step as I was doing it. Okay, what am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? In a lot of ways, you know, there are basic steps that you follow. You know, like I always show, obviously, you got to take it apart first. And you usually sand it right after that and all of that. But when it comes to actually executing whatever your mod is, that can be, depending on whatever project you're doing, can be different than what I'm doing. So it's really hard to say exactly, this is exactly how you want to do it. Just look at the key things that I'm focusing on. The key things. Where I'm going to show you where to put your LEDs, you know, how many LEDs that you can use. All of these are questions that I'm going to be able to answer for you in the video. Just be aware that your project may differ some in how you put it together. That's all I ask. That's all you got to be aware of. You don't have to make your console look exactly like this one. As I mentioned in all of my tutorials now, you don't have to make your console or your controller or whatever project that you're working on look exactly like mine. I'm just showing you techniques that you can use across all of these platforms. Whether you could even use some of these methods on PC. I guarantee you could. If you wanted to do a PC case and you've never tried it before, you could more than likely use the techniques that I'm showing you. Some of them, whether it's how I painted this or how I painted that, or how I put the Mod Podge on this, or how I put the Mod Podge on that, you could figure something out. I guarantee you could. When painting, it is extremely important to use at least 3 coats of paint and allow 15 minutes between each coat of paint. Keep your paint about 6 to 8 inches away from your project, unless you're using the hammered paint by Rust-Oleum. Then you want to go about 3.5 to 4 inches away, and you want to do it kind of fast, and you want to make sure that you get it on there kind of thick. You'll notice that it has like a swirling effect in the paint when you've got it the right amount on there. The longer it dries, it's going to start pitting, and it's going to start having all of these neat metal type of qualities to it. So if that's the paint that you're using, that's how you go about using that. Otherwise, keep yourself away from it, about 6 inches like I said, and you should be good.
It's all so clear to me. You and I should fly folded my black suit. I already miss you,
Now it's time to weather this project. It has sat for 24 hours and dried completely. The paint is cured. I used a variety of sandpaper to do this. I used 220 grit sandpaper to get big, thick scratches, lots of wear, and also to kind of wear down the thicker areas of paint. Then I would hit it with a 320 grit sandpaper, and basically that would just kind of elaborate a lot more on the scratches and gouges that were already in it, but also creating kind of wider, more broad types of rust reveal. And then I would hit it with a 400 grit sandpaper, which I went over the entire project with this, and not even trying to get through all the way to always reveal some rust. I used it to give the metal look a lot more wear. So very, very time consuming this is, and it took very time consuming this is. I don't know why I said it that way, but it takes a while to do it. As well as anything that's worth doing is only worth it if you've worked for it. So take your time, no matter what your project is. I will say though, skipping this part of the step is a great time because you get to get your stuff done a lot faster. So if you're going for solid colors and all that, I envy you guys. You people out there who have the idea that you want to do weathering and all that, it takes some work. So be prepared for that. Weathering does take a lot of additional time, but it is worth it in the end. I felt it was worth it in the end. It was really, really cool to see this whole thing kind of come together. Again, I just had kind of imagined what I would do. I looked at some other projects. I saw some really excellent PC case mods, and I also used inspiration from an Xbox One Gears of War case mod that I saw somebody do. They used metal lath on it, and that was where I got the idea for that. So that's another thing that you should do, is look at other people's mods and think, what can I do that can, like, find something that you really like. I saw somebody else's Fallout 4 Xbox One case mod, and theirs looked phenomenal. It was on Seven Sins. It's a forum, Xbox, and actually it's just a modding community in general. Go over there and check out some mods that they have. I guarantee you'll find something there that you think is awesome and that you might want to replicate. So always look those things up. Google's a great place to start, and see if you can't find anything. Google Images, man. These tools are at your leisure, and they're free. Utilize them.
sour taste my failure leaves. Is there no one who believes I paid in blood every day, but everyone has run away? Please don't make me fight alone.
After I had everything sanded, I went ahead and wiped it all down again, got it nice and clean, and then I started hitting it with the multi-textured Rust-Oleum rustic paint inconsistently. I had no rhyme or reason as to where I was spraying this. Rust doesn't make decisions, it just grows on things. It just happens. It just erodes, and over the course of time, it's not going to matter what, there's no persistence to it. So I just went over it afterwards, heavy in some places, lighter in others. The heavier I put it down, I noticed the more crackle I would get. That crackle was great. It comes through so well on the faceplate of this. And for the question in some of your minds, the question that says, does the power button still work? Does the eject button still work after doing all that? Yes. Yes, my friend, it does. Isn't that fantastic news? You have no idea how happy it made me that this thing just went kabing whenever I tested it, because I was unsure if it was going to work, but I had a way around it. I wouldn't have painted over it if I didn't have a way around it. On the motherboard, and this is just in case there are some of you out there who are even more experienced modders and want to do something way more drastic. On the motherboard, underneath of the Blu-ray drive, towards the front, there are two spaces, one that says power, one that says eject. There are soldering pads available for you to solder to, so you could put a momentary switch button somewhere on the case, even if, let's say you accidentally ripped the ribbon cable. There is your answer. You can put a momentary push switch on the power and eject button, and it's going to work. I might cover that in another video, maybe. It's really, honestly, super duper easy. And honestly, I think you can find on the internet how to install a momentary push switch to something. You're going to be able to find a tutorial out there that'll teach you how to do it. So I don't know if it's necessary that I show it to you, especially since I didn't have to end up doing that. So feel free to ask questions in the comments below if you have any other questions that I neglected to answer already. Join the thousands of people who are asking me questions and working on these projects just like you. Now that we've got everything painted, it is time to clear coat, and clear coating is going to really pull out the color of everything as well as protect your project from scratches, scuffs, food, nasty dirty hands, things like that. It is imperative that you use a clear coat. It really is. There's nothing worse than putting together a project that you spent hours and hours and hours to do, and then everything get turned to shit because you did not protect it. Use 3 solid coats, making sure to spin your project around as you are applying the clear coat, so that way you can ensure that you get clear coat all over every single curve, every single angle. Everything is covered and protected.
Your safety net, you're always falling. I can't hold your life together. I'm not that strong, and it's gonna bring us both down
To cut out the metal lath, I ended up using just some snips that I had. I'm sure that there are better tools out there to use. I actually would have preferred, there are these things called tin snips, and sometimes they look like giant scissors. What I'm using is a variation of tin snips, but they're not as big as some of the others, and it probably would have made cutting this thing out a little bit easier. But when you're dealing with something like this, being as precise as you can isn't such a bad idea. So doing it one little bitty snip at a time, as excruciating as that was, it turned out to be worth it in the end. So I got all the pieces cut out, just basically custom. I would line up the lath, kind of looking at it on the project and basically imagining what it was that I was trying to achieve, taking into account how much space I needed in between. Like if I were to bend these pieces, which I had planned on doing, how much extra did I need, and slowly but surely sculpting the metal lath to fit this custom. So to shape the lath, I used the edge of my work table. If you plan on using lath, if you plan on doing something with the metal lath, I recommend not doing it on like your wife's table or your mom's table or the counter. You're going to want to find something a lot more solid. Concrete step out on your porch, that'll work fine. Cinder block, that'll work fine. Something like that. If you have an old table or something like that that no one cares that it gets messed up or whatever, okay, you can use that by all means, just as long as you understand that it's going to destroy the wood. It's going to chip it off, and it might not look so great afterwards. So be aware of that. And I did this slowly over a course of time. I mean, I had to basically, as I was saying before, I would have to clip pieces and kind of look at it and bend it and kind of put it into place and kind of look at it and decide whether or not, oh, this is too long here, or crap, I got that a little bit too short, I'm going to have to readjust that. The way I did a lot of readjustments was by using a pair of pliers. Just grab a hold of it and kind of lightly pull. Be aware that this is metal. This isn't something that you can bend a whole lot without serious repercussions. If you bend it repetitively, eventually it's going to wear and it's going to break. So make sure that you're readjusting as few times as you possibly can. This part took a lot of time to do, and again, it might just be easier for you to just use the grill that you already have. There's no shame in that. If you don't want to put that extra time into it, like, I do not blame you. I don't think you're lazy. I don't blame you at all. When I visualized this, I thought this is going to look really awesome. And then when I started getting to do it, I was like, this is going to look really awesome. But man, is it going to take me forever to make sure that this gets fit in there as perfectly as I can get it. In the end, I am happy that I did it. And I am very, very pleased with the way this whole thing is turning out. To install the plexi, we're going to go ahead and set our plexi down flat, and we're going to put our design fitting over the plexi in such a way, go as close to the edges as you can. I highly recommend that you leave at least a half an inch for your plexi to overlap underneath, so that way you have something to glue to. You're going to use hot glue to secure this plexiglass. So first we're going to get all that figured out. Once it's set in place and you're sure that you've got it where you want it, you're going to go ahead and mark it with a pen or a pencil. After that's marked, use a square, use a ruler, use something straight, and use a plexiglass cutter. You can find these also at Home Depot or whatever hardware store you might have available. Very small tool, very efficient tool, very easy tool to use, very cheap tool. Also, don't underestimate this tool. This thing can cut the holy shit out of you. I did one time cut my fingernail clean open with one of these things. So be careful. Wear gloves, for God's sake. Don't be like me and destroying your little fingers because you're in a hurry to get this plexi cut out. Also keep in mind that the thicker your plexiglass is, the longer it's going to take for you to cut through it with the plexiglass cutter. If you don't score it for long enough, you risk cracking your plexi. I did actually crack the plexi a little bit. Luckily, though, I had given myself enough space between the design that was showing through and the very edge of the plexiglass. So I was able to get away without having to recut this. Once we've got this cut and free, we're going to remove the blue film from one side, and that side we will fit face down onto our design. Then we're going to take hot glue and we're going to secure all four corners first, keeping your hand flat on the plexi, pushing it flat to the case so that way there are no vent holes or seams or anything like that. Once we've ensured that we've got all four corners glued down, we can go around our edges and secure that as well with hot glue. To secure the grill, I used a series of screws, washers, and acorn nuts. I drilled holes in each four corners, exactly where I wanted the screws to stick through the lath, then securing it by putting down the washer and then the acorn nut. If you're doing something like this and you're noticing that your screw is still spinning and that your grill isn't being held down tight, go ahead and acquire yourself some nylon spacers, and that should tighten it down to where it's going to be on there nice and tight, and it's not going to be moving, and it's not going to be loose, and it doesn't risk falling off into your console or anything like that.
I hope you wake up right next to me. Please don't cry. It only makes it harder when I'm leaving. I may be gone quite long, but I'm always gonna come back home to you. Drop your guns and I'll drop mine. I've seen enough.
Next, we're going to take apart the Kinect. It's actually super easy to do. You just flip it over. On the bottom side, you will notice these two black, shiny, sticky pieces here. You're going to go ahead and remove those. Those are just stickers meant to conceal the screws. There are, I believe, 6 screws total that hold this thing together. Possibly 7, but they're all right here as far as getting the outward case off. So go ahead and find those screws. Remember which ones are which. Usually your edges are the longer screws and the ones closer inside are your smaller screws. Put those screws off to a safe place. You'll then grab a hold of the bottom and pull it towards you and then lift up, and it will pop right out. Once you have that pulled off, go ahead and remove the little grills or vent spaces. And you're going to notice that there is a black screw on each side in a notch. And you're going to remove those screws. So there's one on each side. That's all the screws that you have to remove. You can then pull this case apart. Whenever I do the reassembly part of this, you'll actually see exactly where those screws are. I apologize for not getting them in that shot. But you will see exactly where they are whenever I put this thing back together. Mental note. There is no question in anybody's minds that this Kinect goes with this Xbox. So, those are added details. And plus, I mean, you know, those things are cool, right? Once we have that removed, we're going to go ahead and set this lens cover off to the side. I highly recommend that you do not paint it. Just don't paint it. Put it off to the side. You can paint everything else. That should be good enough. The grills, the top, the bottom, and following the same steps that I took for doing the console, I applied that to the Kinect case.
Tears on the ground have turned to dust. Oh, we had is over now. Just look at us. Oh, dried up tears on the ground have turned to dust. Oh, we had is over now. Just look at us.
To install a new stock fan, I did paint this fan. I set it down to where the lights were facing downward, and luckily that worked well because the way that the fan sits in this, it's like the back of the fan is facing upward, and that is because it is pulling heat off of the heatsink and expelling it out through the top of the case. So be aware that your back grill of the fan, that's what I'm going to call it, the back of the fan, that grill, you'll see these 4 pieces of plastic that are supports. That is your bottom side. That is the side that you want at the top. Okay. When I painted it, yes, I am well aware that I painted a sticker that is sitting on that fan, and that is because underneath of that sticker is a hole that reveals the insides of the fan, and I did not want to get paint inside of that. I did this very, very lightly. So I hit it a couple of times with some primer, and then I blasted it a couple of times with some of the darker brown, and then I hit it with the multi-textured Rust-Oleum paint at the end of it to kind of finish it all off. And that was it. I didn't even clear coat it because there was no need to. It's going to be protected inside of the case. Your new aftermarket fan should have a positive wire that is identified with these white marks. Okay, you're going to see like these white lines on that specific wire. That is your power wire. The wire directly next to that is going to be your ground. What we're going to do to wire this thing up is we're going to take the actual adapter part that's on the stock fan, and you're going to clip that. There are 4 wires. Okay, if you're looking at the motherboard from the back side of the console and you put in the fan port into place, the plug-in that you just cut, and you plug it into the port, the wire on the furthest right side is your power, and the wire directly to its left is your ground. Okay, so furthest right wire is your power, the one directly to its left is your ground. The other 2 will no longer have a function. So again, when facing the motherboard and you plug in the fan's power port, the wire furthest right is your power, and the wire directly to its left is your ground. To power up the LEDs, we are going to flip over our motherboard and we're going to go over to the power port side. You'll be able to identify it looking at this video and looking at the power area. You see the M1 there? You're in the right spot. You did it. You found it. Woohoo! I knew you could do it. So this spot is your ground and this spot is your power. Okay? Usually the international sign for power is yellow, and then the international sign for ground is black. Now I had to find a diagram on the internet and to be able to identify where I should be attaching the LEDs, and the picture that I saw had black as power and red as ground. Okay, so when I was putting this together, I thought that I was putting black to ground and white to power, but I was not. So be aware, in this circumstance, white is ground and black is power. I apologize for that. Don't let it confuse. Just don't even do that. Like, do it the other way around. That way, whenever you go to install your lights, you aren't putting black to black and nothing's happening. Okay? So it's important that whenever you go to put yours together, that you just go ahead and make white power and make black ground. I apologize for that, but hey, at least I told you what was going on. That's the best thing that I could do in this situation.
You've been infected, you can't cut the poison, live and save your soul. Whoa,
Now it is time to put this guy back together. Now the way I did this, I actually had everything in place first and then flipped it over and screwed in the motherboard, but technically you could screw in the motherboard before you put in your Blu-ray drive, and you know, you could do it like right after you install the fan. That's actually when I suggest that you do it. I chose not to do it that way, but whatever. Once you got those screws into place, go ahead and flip it back over, and then take your longer screws and go ahead and start screwing into place your components, like your Blu-ray drive, your DVD drive. I took the speaker and fit it in between the ring of light and the fan on the inside of the chassis. Speakers have magnets in them, so it was actually able to just stick to the chassis. That was awesome. I didn't have to put any glue on it or anything like that. It'll hold itself on there just fine.
it's gonna follow you. You've been infected, you can't cut the poison, live and save your soul.
Get all your screws put back into place that you can, and then we're going to go ahead and set this chassis into the bottom of your case, and then we will take the top of the case, and from the back side forward, we're going to snap it all back into place. Okay? Then you're going to take your faceplate, you're going to reapply the ribbon cable, and then it's important that when you put the faceplate back together, you hinge it from the bottom. Okay, so you put the bottom down first, then you push the top into place. You cannot get it put together any other way. You can't, you just can't.
Find the hole in your man. Now can you see what's wrong with that? While I'm ahead, I'm pushing you back, as if I'm not just another rat. I'll play this game as long as you let me get away with everything.
Now we're going to reapply the sides back into place. I had removed this one because I thought about replacing that with some of the metal lath, but I felt that I had spent enough time on this project So I just went ahead and ended up painting the grill piece that was already there, and then just reapplying it with hot glue.
Sleep on top of your bed, I'm uninspired. Let me steal all that you have. Now don't hold anything back. You're just a pitiful wreck.
Now here you can see actually where I am putting those 2 screws back into place that I mentioned before. There is 1 on each side. So again, mental note, that is it. You only have those screws to remove in order to pull off the case. And honestly, it might give you a little trouble because there's like these metal RF shields and stuff like that in there. You just have to slowly work it back together until it completely fits together. You shouldn't have to force anything. If you feel some resistance, kind of like pull up, take a look, see if you need to like readjust some of the metal tabs that are in there. I had to do that a couple of times, and you'll get it to fit back together if you're patient enough. This is so exciting for me to bring this to you because I have had a lot of you out there asking me, will you do an Xbox One? So many people out there are responding to these do-it-yourself tutorials. I have like about 100,000 views on the PlayStation 4 controller video. That was completely unexpected. So apparently people like it. People are sharing it. It brings me great joy to bring these projects to you. I think this turned out looking pretty fantastic. It looks exactly the way I wanted it to, like an old piece of forgotten equipment, something that survived the Great War of 2077. Be sure to check out my channel, guys. I have a history of Fallout there in case that's something you want to check out. I also have the controller that matches this console in its own tutorial that I just uploaded the other day. So be sure to go over there and check that out, as well as the controller and headset stand that completes this set. Put this all together for a couple of people. Very, very excited and very, very thrilled that I had the opportunity to do so and to bring it to you. Thank you all so much for checking out my channel, for checking out my video, for checking me out, for liking this video because you learned something new, for leaving a comment, guys. Thank you. I have put off purchasing Fallout 4 because I knew that if I bought Fallout 4, I was never going to get this console finished, and that would have left me with a very unhappy friend. So now that this is over, I'm going to go buy Fallout 4 now and find out what I have been missing. I will see you guys on the PC version of Fallout 4. I'll be putting out some Let's Play videos. There's going to be some great adventures to be had. Am I right? Thank you guys again. I will see you in the next video.